Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I do see we are now streaming live, so I'll start the meeting of our Wastewater Treatment Facility Management Board. Meeting held, of course, on Wednesday, September 28, 2022. It's just after 5:30, and I will call the meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. And move directly to item 2, approval of tonight's agenda. Recommendation is that the agenda for the Wastewater Treatment Facility Board of Management meeting of September 28, 2022 be approved as presented. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by, I think, Councillor McConnell had his hand up there. Any discussion on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations from members of the management board this evening?
None here.
Seeing none, thank you all. And nothing under items 4 and 5. That's presentations and delegations respectively tonight. So item 6 takes us to the minutes of our previous Board of Management meeting. This goes all the way back to December 16th, 2021, and that is listed under item 6.1. The recommendation to approve those minutes, reading that the Wastewater Treatment Facility Board of Management minutes dated December 16th, 2021 be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Young. Any comments, questions on that set of minutes from all those many months ago? Ray, comment?
Are those actually the flow rates that we saw at that time? They are the year to date, including December, and yet the meeting was December 16th, whatever it was. Did we extrapolate numbers, or did we insert the completed numbers after that date?
What page are you referring to?
Are you still in the minutes, Ray, or are you onto that first staff report?
Perhaps I've gone past the minutes. No, the attachments of the 2021 flow rates. Unless these flow rates.
I'm not seeing that in the minutes, Ray. Mr. Armstrong, is there anything in here regarding the flow rates in the minutes?
So I don't think so, but I think on page 456 is actually the first report for the 2021 year end, as opposed to what's referred to in the minutes.
Okay.
As usual, Ray, you're way ahead of us all. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, I will call the question then. All in favor? Am I getting a hands up from everyone? Sorry, I did. Thank you. Sorry, it's a little difficult to see, especially Leeway down there. Got to raise your hand, Mr. McConnell. So we will move forward then to the next item. We do have a few items on the report. So 7.1 is the 2021 year end, which I believe Councillor Young was just referring to. Recommendation, this is just for information, but I will go to Mr. Armstrong. Matt, do you want to just kind of go over some of the highlights there, the flow or low lights, I guess, with the flow rates and so forth? Little sewer joke there. Very little apparently from the reaction I got. So Mr. Armstrong, I'll turn it over to you because I'm obviously my comedy routine's dying here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And so the 2021 flow rates, as demonstrated on page 6, total of an average of 2,726 cubic meters per day. Our the wastewater treatment plant is allocated up to, I believe, 4,700 cubic meters per day is its limit. So, and by the standards of the last several years, that's a fairly low year. And so total breakdown was 7.42 for Edwardsburg Cardinal, average for the year, versus 92.58 for the town of Prescott. So when we take a look at the income statement, and that's on page 7, we were relatively on budget. We were within $2,000 of $2,300 being on budget for billing revenue, And then the share for Edwardsburg Cardinal was actually a little bit higher, and that was due to the fact that the budget was based on 6.42% flow rate versus 7.42%. So that has a direct correlation to the amount that is shareable and therefore allocated and billed to Edwardsburg Cardinal. When we go through the actual expenses, a total of 1.11 million was budgeted, and the total expenses for the year was actually 1,023,000. So overall, there was a surplus, budgeted surplus of 24,000, but the actual was 113. That 113,000 then goes directly to the reserve, and which is noted on page 8. The reserves had a beginning balance of just shy of 2.9 million. Interest and investment income was 238,000, less the capital expenditures, and that was for the variable frequency drives, as well as the first stage of the grease dewatering chamber. And so the ending total for the reserve was 3,182,000. So an increase of about 280,000. So more than happy to answer any questions as they might relate to that report, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Just a quick
Thank you
comment.
very much, Mr. Armstrong. Sorry, I was muted there momentarily. Yes, I'll go to Mayor Sayoff first, please, for comments, questions.
So just to report that we had anticipated our share would be somewhere in that neighborhood, and we have set up a reserve in our 2021 financial statements to be able to cash flow this. And my understanding is that we cash flow upon receipt of an invoice. That's my understanding. So just to let everyone know, we're prepared to receive and honor that invoice.
And just to be Mr. Mayor, we will be sending that invoice tomorrow. We wanted to have this meeting first to confirm the amounts for 2021, and that will be along tomorrow.
And that'll be just great, as I think, just to make sure, and I don't want to go beyond the agenda here, Mr. Chairman, but just to let everyone know that our treasurer, of course, is tendered her resignation, and I know that she'll be happy to get that invoice looked after, and her last day with us will be October the 7th.
Okay, thank you very much for that update, Mayor Saw. Great to hear that everyone's on the same page with this. Always good. Any further comments from any other member of the board with regards to this report? Doesn't look like there is anything further. So again, I'll thank Mr. Armstrong for this. And of course, thank our friends in Edwardsburg Cardinal for the great partnership here and those comments from Mayor Sale with regards to the budgetary item and moving forward here. So on to, so that leaves behind 2021. So we'll move on to 7.2. That's the 2022 year-to-date report and the projections. That is just for information as well, but I will turn it over to Mr. Armstrong again for a summation of that report under 7.2. Matt?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So what we're looking at is the first 8 months of the year to the end of August. And you'll see a marked increase in the average daily flow, in particular in March and April. March in particular was the second highest monthly flow for the wastewater treatment plant over the last 10 years. So we went back all the way to 2012, and we could only find one other month that was higher than that. So certainly that's a huge flow, and it's expected in that time of the year due to the snow, that sort of thing, and the fact that County Prescott does have combined sanitary and storm sewers on some streets. So it was just, I haven't seen that number before, and not a number that we were expecting. We have been seeing slightly higher flows throughout the other months this year, but August was very small at only 2,200 cubic meters per day. So right now, the breakdown is 0.83 for Edwardsburg Cardinal and 90.17 for County Prescott. You take a look at the income statement, and that's on page 12. So billing revenue, we are budgeted a total of $1,070,000. We'll behind in receiving the billing information and the amounts from RSL, who bills on the behalf of the town. So what you're seeing in front of you, actual year to date. And sorry, I apologize. That second column should read actual year to date at August is only up to April. So there's a fair amount of variability when we're only basing a projection on 4 months. That's kind of where we're looking at this point. As we get the next few months of information in, that will help us determine exactly where that number might end up. But that being said, relatively on pace, it's a difference of approximately $7,000 at this point. The very large increase for the Edwardsburg Cardinal share really comes down to the share of the flow. So budgeted was 7.46%, whereas right now we're running at 9.83. As we go through September, October, November, December, we'll numbers to it and see exactly where it ends up. But based on the numbers, that's how it's currently working. When we go through the expenses, year to date, the only two that were a bit of a concern were in particular hydro, electrical utilities. And what we found is in, I believe, January and March of 2022, they were over what we expected usage and at the wastewater treatment plant. And there's two reasons for that. One is that just we had a number of cold snaps and that were elongated. And so we had to run the blowers that keep the ice off of the ponds, for the lack of a better term, so that they could continue accepting it as well as their process of digesting the material that flows into them. So the second issue was that, as I mentioned earlier, the March flow in particular was the second highest we've ever seen. So that does have an impact on what is processed through the plant and how much that has to run. So that being said, we're not that far off of where we are expecting to be at this point. So we had budgeted 127,000, and at this point we're looking like we're going to be 133. So it's about a $6,000 difference, but is one that in all likelihood will be more than budgeted. The other one is heat and natural gas. So just in early September, we received a retroactive bill from Enbridge dating all the way back to June of 2021. And they had noted a billing error, on and then issued the retroactive bill. So that had the effect of adding about $3,000 more than we would expect in our projection for this year. And so you're seeing at the end of August, which we accrued it back into August, the total that we've spent is $9,900, and then we projected it out to the end of the year. So those are the two areas that that being said, we budgeted a total of 158,000, and at this point the projection is 166,000, so approximately $5,800 more than budgeted. When we take a look at how that translates into the share, and as I mentioned earlier, then 7.46% was budgeted, 9.83 is what we're seeing, and that as a result in increasing the overall revenue. Those are the two items that we wanted to kind of highlight in terms of the expenses so far this year. There is still a fair amount of variability in the projection, simply because we only have 4 months of revenue data. And our discussions with RSL is that they will be starting to accelerate those by the end of this year, so that we're only approximately a month behind. So that will give us not only more cash flow from a municipal perspective, but a better understanding of where we're going from month to month and the variability. In terms of the reserve, at this moment, the equity portfolio is in a negative balance. I think anybody that's been following the TSX and really that's what that equity portfolio follows. This year has been a tough year since January, and the volatility of the market is exceptional right now. And so it really will depend on here to the end of the year. That being said, I believe had already earned about $500,000 or approximately $450,000 on that equity portfolio between when we invested it, which I believe is 2019, and the end of 2021. So the fact that it might be negative this year, it still gives us a 30% return on investment over those 3 years. So it's still a substantial amount. Once we have a better understanding of where those two things end up, I'm suggesting bringing back both the year to date as of the end of November, as well as the projection to a meeting in early December, so that we can discuss not only the year to date, but also the potential for the 2023 budget due to the variability of the projection.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Just before I go to questions, I'll just ask someone's hitting the mic, I think, with paper when they're flipping it. It's creating quite a bit of distortion. So I can't see who might be doing it, but just try to be careful when with the paper hitting the mics in front of you, because it's going to cause issues for the recorded meeting as well. But we'll open it up for discussion. I think I saw Councillor Shankar's hand up. So I'll go to Gory and then go to Mayor Sayal, please.
Just a question, Matthew. So a couple of years ago, we projected the flow rate to be 6.4%, if I was recall, and now this year it's already at 9.83. Is there a reason for that?
So I think probably Carl can answer that a little bit better than I can.
Yes, I guess it's up to us to do the act of contrition. And I don't know, Dave, did they see the water flow reports
No,
that you've shown me today?
no, they haven't yet.
Okay, I think, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, it would help. Do you have copies?
I certainly have a copy.
Well, let me just refer to my copy then, and we can make this copy available. But I just want to report, and it does have an effect on the wastewater treatment plant. But as you know, we monitor the water flow as well as the wastewater flow. So Mr. Grant was sharing with me today a couple of problems which occurred in our industrial park in April and July of this 2022. And I'm just going to let Mr. Grant speak to the problem that occurred and how it was addressed by our staff and by the industrial customer. And suffice it to say that, well, I'll just let Mr. Grant explain it, because the error that occurred with the water flow had a direct impact on the wastewater treatment plant. So Mr. Grant, if you would, please.
Thank you.
If that's through the chair, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, please, Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Yes, on both occasions, it would appear as part of the maintenance, one of the valves was left open and was actually directly going into the sewer. We do our checks about 3 times a week with respect to the water flow. Noticed a substantial increase. We certainly notified Presbyterian Cables that they were using much higher quality or quantity of water during that time. But unfortunately, it was a couple weeks of duration before they located the valve that was left open, and that actually happened with one of our operators attending the site and walking through with the maintenance staff to determine that location. So unfortunately, that has happened twice and had a pretty significant impact with respect to the monthly water capacity to the industrial park and the increase in that wastewater flow.
So Mr. Chair, if I can just sort of wrap it up this way, that has caused, there was a major impact there. And I'll just give you an example. In April our normal April flow for the year before was about 1,800 cubic meters per day. And in this April past, it was like 4,000. And similar thing happened in July, where we're normally water flowing about 1,900 cubic meters a day. It was up to 5,700. Now, clearly there was a problem at that production facility. As Mr. Grant has explained, our staff was able to help them find where the problem was inside their plant. And I just want to make one point, and that is that the top management at Prysmian is very, very aware of the fact that we make every effort to stay underneath our contracted flows. And I think top management at the production plant has addressed the issue so that it will not happen again. Now, that's the bad news. We're hoping that because that problem was addressed in July and the numbers that we have are up until the end of August, we're hoping that September, October, November, December, when flows return more to normal, both water and wastewater side, that our percentage will come down slightly from the 9.8. But even if it doesn't, we understand that it's our responsibility, and we will budget to handle this in our return to Prescott.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sayon, and thanks so much, excuse me, to your staff and everyone as well for the explanation. Mr. Armstrong, any comment on that from your perspective?
No, we're very happy that that there's a reason for it, and that's just the level of partnership that we work with each other in that. So very much appreciate the explanation and highlighting that, and it certainly helps to understand the numbers a little bit better, and also that when we're working on the 2023 budget, we would expect something less than what we're currently seeing and returning more to a historical number. So really, it helps in making those guesses or estimations when we're creating the budget, and we very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. That discussion was based on the question from Councilor Shank. Gory, did you have a follow-up to that or anything further you'd like to ask?
No, that's a good answer.
Thank you. Other comments, questions on this report? Councilor Young and then Councilor McConnell, please.
So that's station 6, correct?
That's correct. So station 5 is just on the town boundary, and then station 6 is.
So even on station 5, we're looking at a significant increase in wastewater going through there if you extrapolate the next 4 months.
Correct. So that is correct. When we take a look, and unfortunately, we're comparing this to last year, which was an exceptionally low year. Only running at 65% capacity on average, versus a year where we've run up to 4,000. So we're not out of the realm of normal. At this point, certainly March was a big number. I mean, a surprise. But that being said, we've also had a fair amount of rain this year. So when compared to some of the previous years, so that certainly had its own effect.
All right. One of the items from the 21 budget that a budget to actual was the repairs and maintenance. It was down a third of what we intended to spend. And I look at the 22 budget and half of what we intended to spend.
So
Stuff we're not doing.
So very good point. In 2021, there's a number of areas in there that we put in the repairs and maintenance budget every year for the unforeseen. And thankfully, knockwood, we didn't have a lot of unforeseens in 2021. So when we did our projection last November, we always want to err on the side of caution. And if there's anything else that happens in the last month, that it would be recorded there. So the number that you see here in the 2022 actuals year to date is 61,000. That's up to the end of August. And so we're tracking that will likely be a little bit under the 124. But that being said, because we still had 4 months of the year, I didn't want to unduly flavor that I think we're going to end up below. So the two areas that I would have the potential for being less are repairs and maintenance at this moment, as well as the contracted services. So those are kind of two areas where we put them in the budget for the contracted services. It's more in relation to any engineering fees and things like that that we might have to incur when we're doing plans or pump sizing, things like that. The repairs and maintenance, I'm expecting to be relatively on budget, because this year we've had to use a lot of that unexpected room to try and combat the inflationary increases. So in the course of this year, we're seeing things that were budgeted for last year. So pump rebuilds, replacing the parts, things like that, being up to 30% higher than they were budgeted. And that's simply due to inflation that we're seeing right now in the industry. So we've been able to absorb it for this year, but it's not anticipated that we'll be able to absorb all of that increase in 2023, which is why you'll see I made that notation in the 2023 projection report.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Ray?
Good.
Thank you. Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Ray actually asked what I was going to ask about station and the flow on number 5 there, but I did have another question that I was wondering about, and it also has to do with repairs and maintenance being under budget. Given the vagaries of deliverance and being able to acquire parts over the last couple of years, are we running into that at all? Are we looking to do things and can't do them because we just can't source the parts to do them?
No, so in 2021, we were fairly lucky. We didn't have any major unexpected, as well as when we were rebuilding some of the larger items, they didn't require as extensive a rebuild as so that was kind of what we saw in 2021. In 2022, we're able to find vendors necessary. A lot of those vendors have locked in contracts and service requirements, so they're able to access those on a preferred access basis, as opposed to having to kind of wait with everyone else in the marketplace. So we've been lucky with that. Unfortunately, the price is the thing that's been really driving a lot of that. So haven't had many issues around access. It's more simply timing of things taking a fair long time to get there, and then the price increase. For 2023, again, we're not expecting any because they really start a lot of their signing POs and things like that in January. So a lot of those things will occur over the course of the year. We're just seeing slightly longer time frames and a more higher price cost.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor McConnell. Any further comments, questions on this report? Councilor Young.
Thank you. I was just wondering, capital projects, we had a couple of them. The lights for one, I think we were replacing.
So in 2020, we did the lighting project, as well as we started the variable frequency drives. In 2021, we finished the variable frequency drives, and we started on the grease dewatering. And this year, we're working through the grease dewatering chamber, as well as the SCADA. So we're happy to report this new, entire new SCADA system with new software, all new programming, and everything should be up and running end of October, or middle of November. That was approximately $100,000 project. And then the dewatering chamber is reaching its completion as well, both on budget and both on time.
Oh, terrific. Good.
Thanks, Ray. Last call for comments on this report.
So do we see,
Yeah, please, go ahead, Mayor Sal.
so do we see the capital?
No, I don't think I included this report, but more than happy to add it to the next report.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Matthew. Thank you very much, Mayor Seah. So last call, seeing no further comments, so we can move on. So we are at 7.3. That's the draft 2023 budget for the wastewater treatment plant. And Mr. Armstrong, over to you again, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So this is really just a preliminary budget. We're not asking for passing it or anything like that this evening. And what we would like to suggest is that we bring it back in very early December, once we have our new councils and committees struck, that we can. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, as I mentioned just in the previous report, we only have 4 months of revenue data in relation to 2022. So the projection for 2022 is only a third of the way there, or based on the data that we've received so far. The other part is that Aqua every year provides a 10-year outlook for their capital, but I would normally be receiving it in the next few weeks, and they're on track to deliver it to us in the next couple of weeks. So we use the estimate for 2023 based on the 2022 report that was estimated out for the next 10 years and specific to 2023, and then we added the 30% on that. So again, once we receive that report from Aqua, they'll be able to more clearly identify exactly what they're seeing from a cost perspective and anything new that might be added or removed from the requirements for 2023. And thirdly, insurance certainly is something that we don't have a clear indication on. Our insurance with Town of Prescott came up for renewal on August 29th. We're waiting for the actual insurance documents as of this week, and so there's a fair amount of flexibility or variability that could be in what we would presume for or estimate for their insurance next year. So with those, we feel that there's a lot of unknowns that will be better identified over the next couple of months. And that's why we produced the budget based on the projection that we have so far and what we estimate in terms of inflationary increases, that sort of thing. But as I mentioned, the variability is something that we feel more comfortable dealing with in early December.
Thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong. I'll pass it along for comments momentarily. The only observation I'm going to make before that is the rate increase of 3% as the placeholder. It's not going to be my issue when this comes back in December, but speaking as a resident, and I know how much hurting is going on out there with regards to the inflationary pressures. So not that we're not victim to that as well as a municipality, but if there's any way to keep that number down lower than the 3, I think it would be greatly appreciated by our residents and ratepayers, simply because of the pressures and things like natural gas, food and commodity prices across the board. So that's closing words on that one. I won't be here to discuss it, but I do hope that the board, as it's constituted in December, will really look at that, as will the council of the day. Councilor Shankar, did you have your hand up there a moment ago?
Yeah.
Please.
So we're going to meet again in December and we're going to finalize the budget.
That would be the intention, is that we would bring back a much more developed budget once we know exactly what the Aqua is requesting for or estimating for repairs and maintenance. So at this point, we don't have any capital projects that's been identified as of last year, but we would like to give them the opportunity to identify any for 2023, as well as we'll have a better understanding of our insurance increase, and hopefully by then we'll also have a better, hopefully the hours per cardinal flow has decreased by then. So that way, but we would absolutely be expecting to see that based on the explanation that we heard this evening. And so it gives us an opportunity to understand what that number should be for 2023.
And sorry, one last question to that. As of today, a 3% will cover all the increased costs?
Based on, so I just use it as a placeholder, because we really need to be cognizant that there's going to have to be some type of increase. We passed a policy last year that the minimum 2% needs to be contributed to the reserve. And so it's kind of a starting point, but if I was correct in every single assumption that I made, that's not the case. Then with a 3% increase instituted at July 1st, then we would produce a small surplus of $40,000. So, but really that depends on many, many factors, including the hours per cardinal flow. So that there's just a large amount of variability in that.
Okay.
But just a reminder that started in July of 22 and it goes through to July of 23.
Correct.
At the 3%. So anything we set in a budget increase in the December meeting will start August of 23. July of 23.
Okay.
Thank you both for that. I'll go to Mayor Sala, please.
Okay, so thank you very much. So as I understand it, then there was a 3% increase implemented on July the 1st, 2022. And I guess we're a little bit lax because I don't think we adjusted our rates to our users. So we have to do that catch up. But from the budget projection that I see on page 15, there will be another 3% increase on top of that, effective July the 1st, 2023. So is that, am I to understand that both of those increase, well, the 2022 one has already been implemented and the proposal will be to implement another one on July the 1st, 2023. Is that correct? Because if we're going to adjust, I prefer to just adjust once. So do I have the right understanding here?
So I believe it was 2% at July 1st of 2022.
Well, I'm just looking at page 13.
Yep.
This,
Sorry.
Oh, good. Okay.
wait a minute now.
What was the correct number, Matthew? It was 2 or 3?
It was 2 as of July 1st of 2022.
Okay, so that's an error then?
Yes, so that should have read July 1st, 2023, is being temporarily used as a placeholder. So no decision has been made, and I think that would be what we would have a discussion on in December, is to say what number makes sense for 2023.
Okay, so there wasn't an increase in 2022?
There was a 2%.
2%.
Oh, okay, so 2% on July the 1st, 2022.
Okay.
Right, okay. And then we're discussing a 3% in July the 1st, 2023.
Right.
Okay, all right. I'll never remember that. I hope Mr. Grant remembers it.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sa. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Other comments, questions? Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. A couple of things. To Mayor Sayah's point about the increase in our yearly budget discussions in the number of years that I've been here. I'm not going to say always, but many times increase has been suggested to our wastewater. charges, and last year is the first year that we have ever actually done so, to the best of my memory. So just because it's in here and projected doesn't mean that it's actually going to occur. Second thing I had was a question, if I may, for Matthew. And this is going back a ways. We had a problem with the sewage treatment plant when it was constructed with the cement and the retaining walls. And that had a repair done, as I recall, that wasn't completely satisfactory, I believe. Some other things were done after that, but COVID has happened and I haven't heard it discussed in the last couple of years. Where are we with that?
Certainly. That's a great question. And through you, Mayor Todd.
Please.
So what occurred is, and based on my understanding, is when it was being constructed, the concrete was allowed to freeze. That created less than satisfactory concrete. And the fix for it at the time was to inject either epoxy or urethane in those holes and cracks that had developed
From the outside.
from the outside. What our insurance requires, because they're aware of this issue and want to make sure that, you know, it's just being taken care of, is that we actually have a engineer inspect both the inside and the outside of the tanks on a bi-yearly basis. So every second year, when they drain the tanks, we have an engineer come down, take a look exactly what's going on inside, taking a look on what's going on outside. And the most recent one was done in August of this year. And we're pleased to say that there has been no further degradation of the concrete. We are thinking and looking out over the next 5-10 years, if perhaps there's a way to put a liner or a coating on the inside that would have a longer lasting effect and be able to get the full life of the concrete out of it. So that's really in the preliminary, very preliminary thinking of being able to how to solve the problem permanently and extend the useful life of those tanks. But we're also happy to say that we have not seen any significant degradation over the last 6 years.
Okay, that's very good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Yeah, excellent point, getting back to that. And that is good news, actually, that there's no significant deterioration, because that was a bit of a potential situation, as of course you'll recall, going way back when. Any further comments, questions on this report? Seeing none, then we'll put over the budget discussions to the next meeting of the Board of Management in December. Excuse me. So moving on to item 8, old business. Does any member of the board have any old business to raise? Seeing no, 9 is, go ahead, Mayor Seo.
With the indulgence of the chair, if I may. Earlier in the meeting, it was reported that Rideau St. Lawrence is going to try to tighten up their reporting to the municipality so that you're not always 4 months behind.
Right.
And we find that same problem. There obviously you must have some comfort in, or somebody must be making some adjustments in Rideau St. Lawrence so that we will get our information sooner. Can you give us a little bit more information about that? I know it's not specific to the agenda, but I am interested in it, both from a point of view of how it affects here, but also how it affects us.
So over the last couple of months, the town has been having conversations with RSL, in particular around services they currently provide for water and sewer reading and billing. We have been having those discussions with our partnering municipalities that also use the same service. And in the course of that is that they realize and recognize that we provide a fair amount of cash flow that we're not being kind of credited for, but at the same time, we need to take a look at that reading and billing services, make sure that we're providing the adequate amount for it. So So it's a little bit of a give and take, and really that has been the tenor of the conversations. And we've been given some indications that with our new agreement, they'll also be speeding up the payments to us. And we're very happy with that kind of partnership and being able to work together on that.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate, thanks very much, Mr. Chair.
Is it 3 months or 4 months?
It can fluctuate. Over a year and a half ago, it was down to 2 months. And now we're currently sitting at 3 or 4.
And we're hoping for a month and a half or something like that.
We're thinking within 30 days of the billing due date would be when we would receive our payment.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yep.
Excellent. Thanks for raising that, Pat. That's actually a really good point to flesh out a little bit because that was a major change and is a major change that is going to affect efficiency of operations as well. So excellent point. Thanks for the added information on that, Mr. Armstrong. Anything else from anyone around the table on old or new business? Seeing no, so we move to the date of that next meeting under 10. I'm not sure, Mr. Armstrong, if you want to address that tonight or if that's something that will need to be canvassed a little later on, given the looming election and the potential changes in board management makeup.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we would very much appreciate being able to work together between the two CAOs to determine exactly timing of that meeting so that we can ensure that all the new board members have been appointed and that everyone is ready to go, as well as we have all the necessary information. So we will absolutely aim for anywhere before the 14th, on or before the 14th of December, because certainly we don't want to make it any later than that because we're starting to get into Christmas the following week. But that's kind of where we're aiming at the moment.
Didn't we have one, not that I'm suggesting that anybody wants to make this a holiday tradition, but I'm pretty sure we had one year in was it the 21st, 22nd, maybe even 23rd. So I do hope that's not a new tradition for the new group. So that sounds good, that earlier date. So, okay, if everyone's good with that, we'll let that date sort of rest with the CAOs right now. And they'll look to put that date together with the cooperation of whatever new board of management members may be there in the weeks ahead. So with that, I think we're up to item 11, an adjournment. Recommendation reads that the Wastewater Treatment Facility Management Board meeting be adjourned. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor McConnell, seconded by Councilor Young. We'll call the question. All in favor? Thanks, everyone, and all the best. Have a great evening, everyone else. And apologies I couldn't be there in person, but I think this actually went quite well over Zoom. It's nice to kind of see it from this end because I've been at the other end of the table for some of these Zoom meetings, and I was always curious just how easy it was to hear everyone, and this actually functioned quite well. So very good. So take care, folks. Have a great night.